Part 125. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1242. What is that? Am I dazzled? I actually seem to see that person waking up and making the dams tremble. How can this be? At the end of the picture, in that picture, there is a flow of energy that transcends everything. It is stronger than the dam, but it is not as frightening as the dam. At this moment, the images seen by all living creatures such as the Dark Dome and the Forbidden Nine Continents have disappeared. And at the last moment when the picture disappeared, everyone felt it. The throbbing of the dike. And that resurrection. At the same time, what revived with that person was a power that was more transcendent than the dam. However, that power was not weird or threatening. It was like wind and dew, like thunder, but could not destroy the grass. Therefore, I felt that that kind of Tao, there are many supremes in the world, but it has not been destroyed. The picture has disappeared, but the world has made huge waves. What happened deep inside the embankment? There's going to be a big problem, there's going to be a big problem. Something's wrong. In the Dark Dome, many supreme beings are panicking. But at this moment, among the incomplete 10,000 Dao gates, the group of incomplete ones who had been driven to the end by the black mist were all extremely excited. The one who stepped onto the embankment seems to have awakened. The overall situation of eternity, this is the overall situation of eternity, has that person been planning it? He went to the dike. This time, there might really be hope. One after another, old voices trembled. Before reincarnation. In his black and white eyes, at this moment, there was an unprecedented excitement. He clenched his fists and his heart was surging. Lord, that one. Behind him, Po Meng and others spoke in a daze. Senior Li has worked hard, and laid out the plan for eternity. Stepping onto the dam is the result he wants. Black and White spoke firmly and said, everything is a trap. Entering the dark realm is a trap, and the disciples all turn into darkness, it is also a trap. In a small mountain village. Roar, fight, fight, fight. The real dragon was so excited that it roared for 9 days, and the last scene made its blood boil completely. They clearly felt Li Fan's recovery, and that recovery no longer had any cover-up, the avenue was majestic, and his cultivation was unleashed. That was a power they had never felt before. The Master has clearly become the Silent One, his disciples have been transformed into black men, Hanjian has also died, and his anchor in this world has disappeared. Phoenix murmured somewhat absent-mindedly. Even though they were so close to Li Fan, they saw Nanfan, Xiling, and others being alienated by darkness and becoming dark creatures, and Yungzi died. At that moment, they all thought that Li Fandao was about to break his heart and lose the anchor of reality. Dosha suppressed the excitement in his heart and said as calmly as possible. Everyone believes that the 10 gods, 2 evil spirits, and the end of 10,000 paths are the Master's anchor in this life, and the person he cares about most. But, maybe the Master no longer needs the anchor. An anchor is no longer needed. Hearing this, the real dragon and Phoenix were both shocked. No anchor needed. This is stronger than them and has never been heard of. The stronger a person is, the easier it is for him to get lost. Therefore, he needs to find his own meaning in this world. This is the anchor. Even if it is a person of this law, it still needs an anchor, otherwise it will become a part of this law and lose its own existence. However, Li Fan does not need an anchor. But, Nanfan, Xiling and the others were all alienated after all, and Yungzi has passed away. The old hen then spoke, this situation is too tragic. Dosha smiled slightly and said, based on the Master's current level of cultivation, I believe, if he wants to cross the dam, there will be no other way. The eternal layout is not just for crossing the dam. Perhaps, This situation is originally for the sake of all souls in the world, and for the people around him. Hearing this, Phoenix was startled and said, "You mean?" A great black tide surges. On the surface of the Black Sea of Annihilation, big waves undulated, and the Supreme Corpse was shattered by the impact and turned into powder. At the end of the Black Sea of Annihilation, the vast and hazy dam that even the Supreme cannot approach is actually throbbing at this moment. Above the embankment. You deceive this law, you should be punished. The two creatures transformed from this law were frightened and angry, and the fear originating from this law was spreading. Kill. Destroy everything. They roared, and at this moment, the human form dissipated and turned into the most primitive law, triggering the power behind the dam to sweep in like a storm. After the dam, no one knew what it was. The only people who had ever seen it in this world were Li Fan and Ji Jie. At this moment, the secret power of the universe coming from behind the dam is going to wipe out everything. The dam trembled violently, and every drop of water in the Black Sea of Annihilation on the periphery seemed to be boiling. Those piled up mountains of bones shattered and exploded one after another, turning into matter of annihilation. The darkest realm continues to expand, like a tide, sweeping the world. The breath of destruction, passing through the dam, wants to destroy the entire world. All things are at peace. Before Li Fan took action, the Silent One was already roaring. He stood on the embankment. After facing the embankment, he temporarily got rid of the control of this law, and he was close to full strength, bursting out his vast true meaning. Ji Deo. At this moment, it seems as if the years have rested, all worlds are silent, and all living beings have perished. The power of the Silent One is enough to make all cultivators and all Taoists in the world fall into silence and never change. However, the power from behind the dam shook. Ji Jie's body was suddenly covered with cracks, and his long black hair instantly turned snow white, as if he had aged countless years. His silence was actually taken away. Along with his presence. The lonely man fell to the ground, his mouth full of blood. He looked at the approaching power behind the dam and smiled miserably. After all, I took action once behind the embankment. There were tears rolling down his eyes, and he murmured, "Ha ha," an ant walked through the mud pond, thinking that he could find the enemy in his imagination and kill him, but he found a vast ocean. But today, the ants also took action against Wang Yang. My heart is clear. His face became calm, no longer angry, no longer indifferent, just a kind of calm that he had tried his best. Next to him, Li Fan was watching all this calmly. The moment Ji Jie took action, he did not take action, because he knew that it was Ji Jie's long-cherished wish, a poor man's last-ditch effort, and the final interpretation of his life. No one should interfere. Whether he succeeds or fails. The power coming from behind the dam seems to have broken through the existence of the past and present world, and comes out. Li Fan finally stepped forward. He glanced casually behind the embankment and said, "It's disturbing, I don't want to hit you now, go back." Wave casually. In an instant, the kind of existence and power that made the dams tremble and could hardly bear it, made the Black Sea of Nirvana boil, caused all the world to be destroyed, and even made the Nirvana powerless, was inexplicably forced back. A billion distance. That power receded like a tide, and the dam instantly regained its tranquility. Even the surging Black Sea of Nirvana recovered instantly. Pushed by the Black Sea of Annihilation, the ever-expanding darkest dark territory seemed to have collapsed, spitting out its original space and returning to its original size. It was as if nothing had happened. All of this just originated from Li Fan's thought on the embankment. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Gui Xin. Chapter 1243. Above the embankment, calm has been restored. On one side of the dam is the Black Sea of Silence, with the sound of waves still sounding. Behind the dike, there is a taboo that no one can touch, and it is mysterious and unpredictable. Two chairs have appeared. On a stone table, there is a pot of wine. Li Fan was leisurely and comfortable. The stone table and chairs were all he could think of, and the drinks were brought from the small mountain village. Ignoring distance and space, you can take things from the heavens. Have a drink. Li Fan raised his glass and looked at Zizhe. The lonely man's hair has turned white, his energy and blood have withered, and he is close to death. But at this moment, he smiles, calmly raises his glass, and drinks it all in one gulp. What a scam! After drinking, Zizhe couldn't help but speak and said, I have worked so hard to create the scam just to climb the embankment and enter there. At this moment, he already understood. Li Fan has been acting from the beginning. Li Fan was cooperating with him in the performance. He set up 3 tribulations for Li Fan. Li Fan followed the tribulations he set and gradually became a lonely person. Moreover, the acting was so real that he and the other side of the dam believed it. Betrayal, farewell, incompetence, failed to destroy you, but blinded me, blinded the Empress. He was a little dejected, whether he was thankful, self-deprecating, or both. Li Fan said calmly. The various mental disasters you set for me cannot destroy 1/10,000th of me, but they can clearly see you. He raised his glass, poured the wine in the glass into the heavens, and said, This cup is a tribute to you, and also to the unyielding dead in this world. Li Fan's eyes held a kind of nostalgia and respect. The years are endless, and an eternity lasts, but how many people have fought? How many people have struggled? How many people have lived a glorious and prosperous life, and finally turned into a floating corpse that no one cares about in the black sea of annihilation? Even though those who are selfless and in action were once the glory of an era, and their cultivation shocked the ages, they are still decaying. Not to mention someone like Ji, whose era has passed away, and the people he once wanted to protect no longer exist, but he is struggling to live alone under the shackles of this law. What a cruel torture it is! Their passing was silent, their roars were mute and feeble. Li Fan once cut down the dam alone when the whole world was in ruins, so he knew very well the persistence of no one and the loneliness of looking back in vain. In this world, no matter whether they are humble or powerful, they all deserve this respect. Sing for the unyielding, pay tribute to those who forge ahead, and pay respect to those who persevere. The cup spills to the heavens, and the wine pours over the years. At this moment, Zizhe looked back, as if he saw all the worlds of eternity, those creatures that had passed away. There are weak people who sing generously and sadly on the road. There are powerful people whose Taoist hearts perish in the Black Sea. Those who are serious about love will go away with their beauty and corpse in their arms. There are selfless people who die in front of the country. He also saw the world that once belonged to him. That kingdom. That group of supreme beings who support each other and go on the road together with sincerity. The woman who sacrificed herself to save him, smiled like a flower when she died, and never regretted it. Tears welled up in his eyes and he couldn't help crying. A long, long time passed. The shadows of the heavens have dissipated. Those departed spirits were awakened by Li Fan's glass of wine, and they were able to see the dam and comfort their grief. Drinking wine. Drinking glass after glass. Turbulent moods, stirring emotions. At this moment, the Silent One was freed from the shackles of the chain of laws, and for the first time he fully released his true heart. During these countless years, he lived numbly, but his heart still hurt like a knife from time to time. Every time, when those residual emotions arise, he will be punished by the chain of this law, suffer death penalty, and die. Only now did he feel that he was finally alive. He took a deep breath, looked at Li Fan, and said, "Did you already know the truth behind the dam when you cut the dam 9 times? You know that neither the power of the past nor the present world can shake the behind the dam, so you borrowed a future body. He had traced the past and reality, but he could not find Li Fan's footsteps, and there was no trace. He once speculated that Li Fan might belong to the future. But, is there a future in this world? Borrowing a body from a future that does not exist? Li Fan smiled and said, yes. Zhizhe continued to speak. Li Fan, who used to be the nine-cutting dam, is indeed dead, but he used the power of 9 lives to lead you from the future to this life. You are a time traveler. He thought and said. And this whole situation started from the day you crossed over. You blinded yourself, and thus blinded us and the dam through your dark body. In order to lie to us, you even lied to yourself. How cruel. Zhizhe couldn't help but reveal a complicated look on his face. As a future traveler, Li Fan can transcend the power that can destroy the present world and the past, but he cannot get behind the dam. Therefore, he needs to deceive, cheat into the brand, which leads to the behind the dam. Key. Li Fan smiled and said. Actually, I was also deceived. Do you believe it? My 9-path body has deceived me for many years. He couldn't help but feel like complaining. The 9-incarnation body that he once had led him to come to this life. The key is that he also created a dog system. Trick him into farming, raising chickens and dogs. She also lied to him about becoming an immortal along the way. Of course, this is also the result of his willingness to be deceived. Otherwise, the system formed by the 9 incarnations will still have many flaws. It can only be said that over the years, Li Fan has only been cooperating with the system. Show it to the dark body, so that the Silent One, the dam, and the Queen of the Dam can watch. Until the performance was almost over, when the Silent One finally appeared in front of him, he had begun to gradually awaken. But the real awakening was after Yun 11 passed away. At that time, the overall situation will be completed, and he only needs to play out the incompetent script of Zhizhe one last time, and then he will be able to climb the dam as Zhizhe. It's a pity, those people you care about, the lonely person can't bear it. Even though Li Fan has a strong heart and has survived betrayal, farewell and incompetence, the people he cares about have truly passed away. This is still great tragedy. Li Fan smiled and said softly. They are still here, and even the power of the dam cannot kill them anymore. I have no worries anymore. Now. Dark Dome. What happened? Is everything restored? The dark territory is restored, and the earth-shattering energy has dissipated. It must be the dam that suppresses everything. At this moment, the many darknesses in the Dark Dome are full of surprises. And on top of the Dark Throne, Dark Li Fan suddenly looked up to the sky and roared. Wow, I finally don't have to pretend anymore, it's done. He's become the master. At this moment, Dark Li Fan actually made an amazing barking sound. It took off a piece of human skin, revealing the true form of the black dog. It's a dog in human skin. Then, he looked at Dark Nanfan, Dark Xuanhuan and others, and said. Wake up! Woof 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 woof. The barking of dogs alarmed the heavens. At this moment, Nanfan, Xiling, Xuanhuan, Lu Rang, Duguyuking, Qing Chen, Zhongli, Wu Dade, Lin Zhichen, Subakian, Gong Ya, and even Huo Linger and Mu were alienated by the darkness. Qian Ning and others suddenly woke up. Good afternoon and good night. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Gui Xin. Chapter 1244. Woof woof woof. The dog barked loudly, and in the dark sky, on a dark star, the big black dog took off a piece of human skin, and the dog's eyes were filled with excitement. At this moment, Nanfan, Xiling, and others, who had been alienated for 30,000 years, suddenly woke up. What's going on? I woke up. Nanfan spoke in shock, waking up like a big dream. All the memories came flooding back, and the lost heart completely recovered. We have been dark creatures for 30,000 years. Moreover, we have become the supreme darkness. Xuanhuan was a little dazed. At this moment, he was completely awake and recovered, but he felt that everything in front of him felt absurd and unreal. Aren't we already alienated? That battle 30,000 years ago. Duguyuking was also whispering. No. Dog thing. As for Wu Dade, he woke up and looked directly at the dark throne in shock. Everyone looked over suddenly. But all they saw was a big black dog sitting on the throne of darkness. It raised its head and looked at the sky, and its eyes were filled with a kind of desolation and loneliness. I have been meditating for eternity, feeling desolate and lonely. When I look at the world again, I am already invincible. It shook its head and pretended to be a master. Where is the dark master? No, that's human skin, is the master's body that was lost in the darkness disguised by the big black dog. For a moment, everyone present was stunned. This scene simply, somewhat subverted their cognition. Dark Li Fan is so powerful, under the starry sky in the universe, he is second only to the Silent One. Who would have thought that it was actually played by a dog? This is simply outrageous. *TCH, what's going on? Wu Dade couldn't help but ask questions. The big black dog was angry and said, "Damn fat man, you're the one who barked at the dog. I am the second in the world, no, now I am the number one in the world." It is triumphant. However, as soon as it finished speaking, it suddenly screamed and jumped down from the dark throne. I saw another big black dog, chasing it and biting it. That is the main body of the big black dog. At this moment, the main body was a big black dog, his eyes were red, and he said, "You bitch, you can't even fool me, mop floors, pull cars, work as a slave, I'll kill you." Woof, woof woof woof. The main body of the big black dog pounced directly on the big black dog that fell from the dark throne. Suddenly, two identical big black dogs slapped each other, and the dark star was filled with dog barking. Next to them, Xuanhuan, Duguyuking and others were all in a daze. These, two big black ones. Duguyuking was confused. "No, I understand." At this time, Xuanhuan suddenly thought of something and said, "Could it be the one on the dark throne? Could it be Dehai's third Dao fruit?" When he said this, everyone reacted instantly. Dehai once said that its path and fruit are divided into three parts. The first one is to guard behind the giant bronze gate of the god realm. The second copy was in the grey mist sea in the ancestral realm of chaos. The third copy, until the forbidden world, has not yet appeared. Now, two identical big black dogs made them understand completely. This is really outrageous. This dog is undercover in the dark dome, and he is still doing so well. Become the second best in the world. After understanding the truth, they all felt a little depressed. This piece of shit has deceived us for 30,000 years. The fat man was really deceived back then, and his heart almost collapsed. Wu Dade suddenly became furious, gritted his teeth and said, "Hum it." He rushed directly towards the Daokyo of the big black dog. "It's too much, you should be taught a lesson." "Hit it." 30,000 years. This bitch has lied to us for 30,000 years. He even lied to his own people so hard. Xuanhuan, Xuanhuan, Duguyuking, etc. couldn't help it anymore and rushed forward in a rush. Even Subakian silently lost some medicine. Suddenly, Daokyo, the big black dog, screamed repeatedly. "Woof woof, that's too much. I am now number one in the world, please respect me. Damn fat man, you dare to sit on my throne, I will bite you to death." Wow, what kind of medicine is this? It itches and hurts me to death. Daokyo, the big black dog, was directly beaten by the group at this moment. Even its own main body is rushing to the front, attacking with black teeth, and biting it without any mercy. Wow, I don't want to play anymore. Let's unite into one, and stop fighting. In the end, the Daokyo of the big black dog couldn't help it anymore and screamed directly. Then, it hurriedly turned into a black light and shadow and fell towards the main body of the big black dog. In an instant, the two big black dogs became one. Ouch! At this moment, the only big black dog in the world was trying its best to roar like a wolf. This emperor's three Taoist fruits are unified. This is the feeling of invincibility. The big black dog was extremely excited. At this moment, its energy was indeed extremely powerful, far beyond the limit. However, before the excitement was over, it discovered that a group of people next to it were looking at it. Simply, malicious. Wu Dade took out a pot. Long Xuanhuan got some water. In the Duguyuking Dao scenery, the Suzaku, which has become a supreme creature, spurted out flames, and the water boiled instantly. Long Xuanhuan was gearing up, holding the rope and staring at the big black dog. Lin Jujhan evolved two pig-killing knives. Wow, you guys, what do you want to do? The big black dog suddenly panicked and said. I am warning you that every injustice has its own owner, and those things have nothing to do with me. I have had a much harder time than you in these years. When I mention it, I feel a little angry and aggrieved. Over the years, it is the only creature that has not been alienated. The reason why it has not been alienated is because it is one with the Tao fruit and cannot alienate itself. However, it had to endure, being used as a mop to drag the entire forbidden ancient road, being used as an ox to pull a cart, and being pitted by Daokyo. Can't say yet. Thinking about it, I want to pull out Daoguo and give him a good beating. Tell me, what's going on, or we'll have dog meat hot pot today. Long Xuanhuan held onto the rope in his hand. They have understood that the big black dog is a trading dog, with too many plans. It is estimated that apart from Master Li Fan, it knows the most. Even Sister Tao and the others were kept in the dark by the big black dog. The big black dog said. This is actually very simple. Didn't this emperor tell you that if you want to win, you have to lie, big or bad? I've told you all, but you still can't figure it out. It's simply hopeless. The dam, and even the dam behind it, can't do anything to its master, but you all belong to this world and cannot escape the execution of the dam. So, before the master climbs the embankment, he must protect you with darkness. Only in this way can you be protected from murder. I think back then, when I followed my master and killed indiscriminately, the world was shattered and the earth was shattered. The years were dark, but I found that there were big problems in the past and the current world. Hope lies in the future. So, the master once used a little bit of true spirit to transcend the long river of time, break through the light of death, and create a future that transcends the past and the present world. When the layout of this world is finalized, we will lead the reincarnated body back in the future to break all the traps. And this emperor is a key part of this overall situation. He wears the skin that his master sheds, hiding in the darkness, waiting for the light. The big black dog talked about the past, his eyes were filled with emotion, and he suddenly looked up to the sky and shouted. Woof 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 woof. Nanfan, Long Xuanhuan, and others were all a little shocked when they heard what the big black dog said. With just a few words, the big black dog finally revealed the truth about this eternal situation. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Gui Xin. Chapter 1245. The overall situation of eternity, the overall situation of eternity. Duguyuking and others all spoke in shock. After 9 cuts on the dam, I found that there were big problems in both the past and the present. Therefore, a little bit of true spirit can blast through everything and transform the future. After the layout is completed, come back from the future and kill everything. Apart from Li Fan himself, the big black dog is the only creature in the world who knows all this. After all, the whole world was cold at that time, and there was only such a dog following Li Fan. Ever since, it naturally took on the important task. Undercover in the dark. And the undercover darkness is to protect those people who Li Fan snatched back after 9 attacks on the dam. How not to be discovered by the darkness? Hiding in the darkness. The big black dog did it. Therefore, from the moment the big black dog took them out of the small mountain village, the big black dog was actually preparing to take them to kill them. Specially given to darkness. However, the only incident was that even the big black dog did not expect that Xuanhuan would actually develop the unchangeable state of mind. Even if the big black dog already possesses the second most powerful power in the world, he cannot alienate Xuanhuan. Therefore, when it attacked the dark world created by the end of 10,000 paths in its previous life, it used its powerful supernatural powers to cover up and tell Xuanhuan part of the truth. Only then was Xuanhuan willing to take the initiative to be alienated. In fact, it was Xuanhuan's alienation that caused other disciples to be deceived. After all, the people who are least likely to be alienated have been alienated, and the big black dog is really wearing Li Fan's human skin, so other disciples are also involved. What a cruel dog! In order to deceive the darkness, he even deceived his own people, and he was so cruel to his own body. Everyone couldn't help but sigh. This dead dog is really a scammer. Good job, dog. Xuanhuan suddenly spoke, blinking her big eyes and asked. Big brother, he should have gone to the dam by now, right? The other disciples were also extremely concerned for a moment. The big black dog said solemnly. Wow, I know what you want to do, but that battlefield, there is no use for you to go there. Stay and change the world. You are the fire of this world. The master once said that the universe is ruthless, but he will not specifically target the creatures in the world. Darkness or light, black mist or white mist, the creation of the universe, it doesn't matter. And as civilizations are being destroyed one after another, there must be something digging out the roots of the past and present world, quietly changing and affecting the universe. Only after entering the dam can we find it. You are the power in this world. The stronger you are, the more you can weaken the power of that thing. It warned. And at this moment, outside the dark star, a voice suddenly came. That person is dead. The dark sky will destroy that small mountain village. I am here to report it. Here comes a supreme being of darkness. Now that everything has been restored, the darkest realm has retreated, letting the darkness in the dark dome be supreme, firmly believing that Li Fan has died and transformed into the Silent One. If he dies, then that small mountain village will no longer be scary. However, just after arriving here, the Dark Supreme was stunned when he saw the scene in front of him. A big black dog sat cross-legged on the dark throne. On the dark throne, there was also a piece of human skin. Moreover, Nanfang, Long Xuanhuan, etc., actually. All free from darkness. That was clearly a white mist creature. Not alienated. It's not good, it's not good, we let the dogs trick us. This dark one was so frightened that he spoke hastily, his voice shocking the heavens. The dome of darkness suddenly set off a tsunami. What? The one on the dark throne is a dog? How is this possible? Don't talk nonsense, otherwise you will get into trouble. That's really a dog. One of the supreme beings of darkness saw it in person. That dog wore the human skin of that person in the past and has been pretending to be that person for countless years. What the hell, are you so stupid? Kill the dog, kill the dog. Suddenly, the entire dark dome was boiling. The darkness was supreme, and everyone was shocked, and then cursed angrily. They gathered to attack the dark star where the big black dog is. Masters from the entire Dark Dome swarmed in. There were dozens of Supreme Masters, and even hundreds of Supreme Masters. However, just after the assembly was completed, the entire Nanfan and others came to kill them. Nanfan, Xuanhuan, Duguyuking, Linjujhan, Wu Dade, Subakian, Xining, Gongya, as well as Huoling Mu Jianing, Mu Wanking, and Wu Xiakan, who were also alienated by the big black dog. Wait, go straight to Huanglong. The war breaks out. This is a bloody battle, and those who have reached the supreme level are all immortals, and no one is much worse than anyone else. However, although Nanfan Longzixuan and others are newly promoted to the supreme, their Tao is close to the original law, and even slightly stronger than that of the Supreme Master. The sound of the piano resounded throughout the heavens. Wherever the martial arts went, all magical powers turned into nothingness. The swordsmanship shocked the sky. Wuji's sword destroyed everything. Linjujhan's innocent way allowed Linjujhan to use the ultimate power of heaven and earth at will. Wu Dade used his flawless power to destroy everything. His body has endured countless murders and calamities. Subakian has no life or death, and has become the nightmare of the Supreme Being. Burn the Zhou formation, use the Burning Universe formation to completely turn them into nothingness. There is darkness shouting supremely. The Burning Universe formation can be called the most powerful killing calamity in the Dark Dome. It was even used to deal with Li Fan in the past. It is enough to show how terrifying this formation is. For a time, many supreme efforts were made to use the entire dark sky as firewood to ignite the fire of darkness that would burn everything. This kind of dark fire can even endanger this law. However, just when the power of the heavens was being activated by the supreme power, the entire Dark Dome, and on every dark star, there were strange green grass growing wildly, and every leaf covered the sky and the sun, full of vitality. The entire universe was enveloped in green light. It's over, all the big dark stars have been turned green, damn, they can't be lit. There is darkness and supreme confusion. What the hell is this? Who planted it? Green all over the sky. Grass all over the world. This is outrageous. At this moment, the supreme energy that filled the sky suddenly burst out. Lu Rang, who should have realized the supreme truth a long time ago, but has been thinking about it until now, has realized it. He finally became supreme. Green all over the darkness, keep your word. His perverted and excited voice resounded throughout the world. However, Lu Rang wasn't excited enough yet. The black and white chess lines were already shining in the sky. Each dark star is like a chess piece on a chessboard. Then, burst open. Boom. The Dark Dome seemed to be filled with gorgeous fireworks. It was the death of stars and the explosion of the universe. Junior brother John Lee, you are really not a human being. Lu Rang couldn't help but speak. Countless dark creatures died in an explosion of this magnitude. Even the Emperor could not bear it, and the Emperor of Heaven was seriously injured. This was a tragic massacre. The entire Dark Dome exploded, and almost everyone below the Emperor of Heaven was wiped out. Go and invite the Silent One. At this moment, there was darkness shouting in terror. Yes, the Silent One. The Silent One is our only hope. Everyone else was panicking. Now, perhaps only the Silent One can save the sky of darkness, because not only does he have strong cultivation, but he also represents the Silent One. And at this moment, above the embankment, there is indeed something wrong with that dark body of yours. Jie suddenly smiled and said. It turned out to be that dog, this bitch one. Although I know everything about the world, this bitch often hides its secrets in its feces and urine. It smells terrible, what a dog. He couldn't help but curse. So, betrayal is of no use to you. You knew from the beginning that it was not a real betrayal, What about Yungzi? He looked at Li Fan and asked. He saw Yun 11 with his own eyes and died in the Black Sea of Nirvana. Is the farewell also a scam by Li Fan? Good night. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Gui Xin. Chapter 1246. Go and ask the Silent One to take action. Only the Silent Ones can suppress them. In the Dark Dome, many of the darkness were covered up by Nanfan and his group. Especially now that the sky is green, they can't even use the ultimate killer like the Burning Universe formation, so they can only place their hope on the Silent One. Silence is the only disciple of silence, he can contact silence. Once the Silent One comes out, so what if the big black dog is strong? Nanfan, Xuanhuan, and others all have no choice but to die. The dark powerhouses were retreating steadily. They fled towards the big star where the Silent One was. Shortly after, this group of Dark Supremes finally arrived at a big dark star. Because the Silent One lives here, this dark star is also called the Silent Star. Since the Silent One attained the Supreme Deo, he has gathered around him a large number of powerful men such as the Supreme Being, the Heavenly Emperor, and the Great Emperor. The strongest seed geniuses in the Dark Vault have also been recruited. A group of Dark Supremes entered the Silent Star. Where is the Silent One? The world is undergoing great changes. Black dogs are trapping us and killing us. Please take action if you are silent. Ask the Silent One to take action. They shouted. On the dark star, a young man had already stepped forward. There was a smile on his lips, but he remained silent. With his appearance, it seemed that even the sound of the universe exploding had disappeared. The Silent One. The Silent Way has already been accomplished. Faced with many supreme beings, he opened his own Taoist scenery and just stretched out his hand in a gesture of invitation. He was silent and didn't say a word. However, all the Dark Supremes saw the 9 dark stars in his Deo scenery. The Silent One means to let us enter the Taoist scenery, and then he will take us to see the Silent One. Great, this way, we will be safe. Let's go. This group of Dark Supremes were all very happy. Without thinking, they entered the Taoist scenery of the Silent One directly. A strange smile suddenly appeared on the corner of the Silent Man's mouth. Then, 9 dark stars suddenly erupted in his Deo scenery. The 9 stars in a row look like a big mill, with dark energy and origin leaning down, and the Tao that is close to the law is vibrating. What happened? No, why do these 9 dark stars feel a little strange? These 9 dark stars, formed by the mill of the avenue, are grinding us. Many of the Supreme Beings who entered the Silent One's Deo scenic area were stunned. They immediately tried to leave. However, 9 dark stars, almost the power of the Deo Jingdi of this law, shrouded down. My way of fighting can defeat everything. A strong man who had proven his way through battle roared and was about to take action. However, the power of a dark star suddenly enveloped him. At this moment, this strong man suddenly felt an inexplicable autistic feeling. He felt that he did not want to fight. He was afraid when the word war was mentioned, and his fighting spirit disappeared instantly. The big dark star once represented the warlike desire of the silent man. Later, he absorbed the true meaning of the silent Tao that Mo Zhan understood, which could calm the war spirit. Moreover, at this moment, this combat master was actually trembling and frightened, as if he had been beaten into silence. Kill the Silent One, there's something wrong with him. A fierce and powerful master roared out, almost tearing apart the Silent One's path. However, light from another dark star also hit him and suppressed him. Suddenly, this supreme master whose murderous intention shocked the sky suddenly fell into a trance. That was the big star who was dominated by silent killing. Silent killing was easy to kill all his life, but he was silently known by his junior brother and killed millions of times. In the end, his mentality collapsed and he went to the road of silent suicide. No. The way to kill is to kill yourself. This master was actually influenced by the silent way, and then suddenly committed suicide. Moreover, these two are actually not the worst. Several male supremes raised their swords from the palace and screamed. Several female supremes took out their needles and threads and sewed themselves up. Their hearts were dying. There are also supreme beings who are swallowed up by the dark star. The dark star is like a piranha flower. At the same time, there seemed to be a terrifying virus spreading among the supremes. Several supremes actually started biting other people like crazy. Those who had been bitten seemed to have turned into new zombies, and they were also killing others. Supreme. What the hell is this silent way? This is simply a demonic way. A supreme venerable person was simply frightened. This was completely contrary to the silent way they imagined. This guy's warlike spirit was not something he could give up on his own. He was beaten into silence by others. The same is true for his lust and lust. What happened to him that made him so disgusted with both men and women that he directly committed suicide with a knife? That's outrageous. Damn, the necrophiliac part of him turned himself into a zombie. Not just zombies, but humming piranha plants. What happened to this guy when he went to the forbidden world? It turned into a blood pit. There is a strange medicine in the scene that is disintegrating our dark origin. At this moment, everyone was completely panicked. The Silent One is no savior at all. Instead, it's a big hole. All the quasi-supreme and stunning emperors he recruited over the years were eaten by him. Damn, right under our noses, he hollowed out the roots of the dark vault. Xuanhuan was going crazy. It is precisely because of the 30,000 years that the Silent One has been recruiting disciples and recruiting people, devouring tens of millions of elite geniuses, that his silent way has developed so rapidly. After all, those geniuses are all extremely talented. At this moment, this group of supremes were all crazy, and they took action frantically, trying to kill the Silent One. However, the suppression of the Silent One's 9 big stars was too terrifying, and vaguely gave these supreme beings the illusion that they were facing Xuanhuan and others. Could it be that the silent way of the Silent One is successful because of those talents? It's a scam, it's all a scam. That dog is the biggest scam, and that group of people are all scams too. A supreme being who was influenced by the silent killing method and prepared to commit suicide shed helpless tears. What crime have I committed to make me suffer like this? Another supreme, looking at his roots that had been chopped off and the door that was sewn shut, was extremely sad, and then was eaten by a piranha flower. One village has trapped the entire dome of darkness. Don't let me encounter a small mountain village again in the next life. The other supreme, whose origin was disintegrated by the poison, fell limply to the ground, leaving his last words. In the dark sky, there are many supremes, dead and injured, almost cold. But the Silent One raised his eyes at this moment, but his eyes were full of tears. Use my limited life to fight for an infinite cause, and use my youth to write a long poem to restore the innocence of the universe. Hiding in the darkness, being a hunter in the darkness, killing the hope of the darkness, devouring the creatures of the darkness, I am guilty, all creatures are guilty, and the creatures of the darkness deserve to die, and I deserve to die too. At this moment, in his mind, he remembered the time when he met a monk in forbidden 9 continents. From that day on, he adhered to this principle and worked hard to become stronger. I deserve to die too. Then, the fierce Silent One suddenly blew himself up. You are so crazy. In his Taoist scenery, those Wushang who were still persisting and not completely dead were all confused. Originally, they still had a chance to survive, but the Silent One actually blew himself up. It's over, completely over. Damn, who was this guy fooled by? Grass. The Dark Supremes cursed angrily and were tricked to the point of vomiting blood, but there was nothing they could do. Boom. With a huge vibration, the entire Silent Star exploded, and the Silent One's Dao scenery also shattered, and the Dark Supremes inside were also killed by the shock. The word of the Silent One has disappeared. He died, and even until his death, he was still vigorous and vigorous. At this moment, Nanfan, Longzixuan, Duguyuking, and others who were chasing after them couldn't help but have complicated expressions. You are still calling me a trap? You are not just a bunch of little scammers. You drove a good baby crazy alive. You are afraid of war and commit suicide. You are impotent and claustrophobic, and even turned people into zombies and piranha plants. Is this something a human can do? The big black dog also came over, full of disgust at this moment. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1247. On the embankment. The lonely man stared at Li Fan. What about Yongzi? A group of his disciples took shelter from the big black dog and hid in the darkness, so they managed to escape. But Yongzi, truly, has passed away. When Li Fan heard this, a look of reminiscence suddenly appeared in his eyes, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and he said, "She's still here." He didn't speak very carefully, but Zhe pondered for a moment and stopped asking. He knew that since Li Fan was so sure, Yongzi must still be there. You lied to me 3 times. Zhe couldn't help but smile bitterly and said, "You deceived the dam, that dog deceived the darkness, and your disciples deceived my disciple, the Silent One. The top beam is really out of alignment and the bottom beam is crooked. For every teacher, there must be a disciple, a bunch of big liars." He sighed. This group of people, the whole situation was accomplished through deception. But Li Fan smiled happily and said, "You can deceive yourself until the end of time, and you can deceive someone into making the world brighter." He raised his glass, drank it down in one gulp, and then waved his hand toward the outside of the embankment. Suddenly, the vast black sea of annihilation suddenly surged and roared, the waves rose and fell, and the sound of the waves was shocking. Between the sea water, countless corpses suddenly stood up. Densely packed and endless. These corpses had long been infected by the black sea of nirvana. At this moment, they came to life and turned into dark creatures. All is darkness. Each one of them was once the most powerful person born in a certain era and civilization. They once took it as their duty to put down chaos and walk to the embankment. However, they lay dead here and no one asked them for eternity. Now, Li Fan waved his hand, and they turned into the supreme darkness. Each one was extremely powerful. On the edge of the dam, there are 2 more powerful ones. Their way is unique and transcendent among countless supreme ones. The one who does nothing, the one who has no self. They, all turned into dark creatures. At a glance, they are countless and uncountable. What are you doing? On the embankment, Zhe was slightly startled. Those supremes have all passed away, leaving only corpses. They were originally harmless, but now Li Fan has transformed them into dark creatures. This is simply more terrifying than thousands of dark domes combined. You must know that this black sea of annihilation is the supreme destination of everything from ancient times to the present. Almost all the supreme beings born in the course of time died here. Now, the supreme being equivalent to the eternal river appears together. However, it appears in the form of a dark creature. Li Fan smiled, looked in the direction of the black sea of annihilation and the dome of darkness, and said, "I'm about to enter the dam, and I have to find something to do for those disciples. Otherwise, wouldn't it be annoying if they talk about me all day long? There are tens of millions of these supreme beings with ominous bodies and strange fates. There are still a few of them who have been lying in front of the dam for long enough and have given birth to a small part of the law, just to play with them for a few more years, no matter what, as for leaving them with nothing to do. Hearing this, Jizhe looked complicated and almost vomited blood out of anger. This master, with a wave of his hand, caused thousands of supreme beings to reappear instantly and turn them into dark creatures. Was it actually to let these dark supreme beings beat his disciples? He really wanted to say, "It's such a hard life to be your disciple." No, it's still a little bit worse. That dog is Benlu after all. Li Fan suddenly muttered again, and then waved his hand. Suddenly, the embankment was trembling, and within the embankment, there were traces of power, which he pulled out and poured into the group of supreme darkness. Those supreme darkness has been floating in the Black Sea of Annihilation for countless years. Many corpses are already close to the law, especially those who do nothing and have no self. They are only a hair away from the law. Now, Li Fan has drained away all the laws of darkness contained in the dam, and directly made several supreme beings of darkness give birth to the laws of darkness. Those who do nothing and have no self have clearly become the law. Well, this is much better. Li Fan nodded with satisfaction. Jizhe's scalp was a little numb. Although Nanfan, Xuanhuan, and others are very strong, facing an army of tens of millions, coupled with the many creatures infected by the law of the dam. Even if Jizhe were to face him, he would still have a big head. Even the big black dog who gave birth to this law will suffer a lot this time. Wrong. However, Jizhe stared at Li Fan and said, "You do this because it will take you a long time to leave. You don't want them to see the embankment, you don't want them to despair on the embankment, and you don't want them to risk their lives to find you, so, you deliberately use these tens of millions to stop them." He suddenly understood that this terrifying army of tens of millions was actually the last gift that Li Fan could leave to his disciples before he left. This was the last thing he could do. He had already predicted that the master-disciple bond was so deep that once he left, his disciples would risk their lives to follow him. Therefore, he brought countless dark creatures to life. So many dark creatures would defeat his disciples. Even, in order to increase the difficulty, he also drove the embankment to let those dark creatures obtain the law. This was naturally to deal with the big black dog. In this way, his group of disciples will be plunged into an eternal bloody battle, and may even face life and death disasters. In this way, they will not be close to the dam and have no time to miss Li Fan. They will even regard destroying these darkness supremes as something they can do for Li Fan and carry out this war firmly. The brutal war they are about to engage in is just a game prepared by Li Fan for them, a game that allows them to devote themselves wholeheartedly and thus have no energy to pursue Li Fan. You don't have the confidence after bulldozing the levees, right? The Quiet One asked, his words a little heavy. Li Fan would rather let the supreme darkness, and even the dark hair Skur, hunt down his disciples than let them get close to the dike and see the truth behind the dike. If Li Fan had the confidence to bulldoze everything, why would he bother to do this? When Li Fan heard this, he smiled freely and said, "Maybe it's possible, maybe it's not possible. Regardless of whether you have confidence or not, you have to give it a try. 9 corpses are used as firewood, and 1 life is used as fire. Once it has come, it will continue to fuel the fire for eternity." He stretched out his hand, and suddenly 9 lights and a black tower floated into his hand from the Jingdao scenery. Inside the 9 lamps, black lights burned. In the light, there was a vague figure that looked exactly like Li Fan, eyes closed and silent. Before Li Fan left the village, he had gathered 8 lamps, and the last lamp was in the hands of the Grey Emperor of Grey Mist Continent. Later, the lamp naturally fell into the hands of Jizhe. Jizhe got the 9th forbidden tower from Xuanhuan and entered the village to get 8 lanterns. Already collected. Ta won't take it with me anymore. I said I would give it to your eldest disciple. Li Fan left the tower on the embankment, put away the 9 lanterns, and said, "This dam originally belonged to the past, but from today on, it belongs to the future. He stretched out his hand, and in the black sea of annihilation, a broken sword flew into his hand. The moment he put it in his hand, divine flowers bloomed on the broken sword, and its sharpness could cut through the years. He thrust his reborn sword into the embankment. At this moment, the dam exploded, thousands of roads collapsed, all the original laws were chopped into ashes, and the vast years that lasted forever were cut off by this sword. One sword, cut off the ages and the past and present life. In the past, this dam could kill all existences in the past and present world, and, like a natural chasm, blocked the power from the future. Now, it has been changed by his sword. This dike has become a moat in this world. The power behind the dike can no longer pass through the dike and affect the world on the other side of the dike. Thank you for your great disciple. He can run fast, take this world with him, and run towards the future. Li Fan smiled, then stepped down the embankment and headed towards the world behind the embankment. Last question. On the embankment, Zhe suddenly spoke again and said, 3 trillions of years in the painting, how did you survive? 3 trillion years, a long period of torture. Li Fan's voice came, but it was with a free and easy tone, saying, playing with the cat, ha ha ha. His laughter gradually faded away, and there seemed to be a meow sound accompanying the laughter, and his figure disappeared completely. The Silent One stood on the embankment, mute for a long time. That cat, from behind the dike. The lonely man thought for a long time and suddenly realized something. That day, when he went to see Li Fan, he was accompanied by Ziling and Subakian. There is also a cat. But in the end, only Ziling and Subakian were left behind. The cat is missing. At that time, Li Fan was still acting and showing weakness, so it was impossible to interfere with him. And as a silent person, he didn't realize this, as if he was blinded. This is incredible. There is only one possibility, that cat already has a secret that even the lonely person can hardly detect. During one of Li Fan's 9 expeditions to the dike, did he find a cat that had escaped from behind the dike? Little did he know, there would be no answer to that question. Nor was he prepared to pursue answers. At this moment, standing on the embankment belonging to the future, the lonely person only felt a sense of loss. He poured a glass of wine and poured it behind the embankment. I urge you to drink a glass of wine, and there will be no friends left in the dike. After a long time, a middle-aged man with white hair suddenly climbed up the embankment. Coming towards the Silent One. Good night. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1248. Above the embankment. Li Fan has left, leaving Zhe alone. The dike has undergone a major change, and the laws behind the dike have been completely withdrawn by Li Fan. A divine sword pierced the dike and separated the long river of time. At this moment, a white-haired man finally slowly climbed up the embankment. The silent man still looked behind the embankment without looking back and said, "You came." He seemed to have known for a long time that this person would come. Behind him, the white-haired man looked at him, with a deep hatred in his eyes, murderous intent bursting out, and approaching the Silent One step by step. This person is surprisingly Xuanhuan. He has been practicing hard for countless years in the Gate of 10,000 Daos, and with the guidance of Master Tiao, his strength has improved by leaps and bounds. Today, he is here. For revenge. Avenge the little monkey Lucaling. You are the most gifted person to become the Silent One. But Zhe opened his mouth and said, "Do you remember your last life? I gave you the road, the lonely one, which is just the starting point. You only need to go further, and you can find the door leading to the lonely one. It's a pity that you gave up. After you wiped out the Shinto civilization, you were disturbed by a mental ape." He shook his head, seeming to regret this deeply, but then said, "In this life, I will personally open the way to the nirvana for you. Farewell, I have given it to you. The next story is called Incompetence. He slowly turned around and looked at Xuanhuan, with a hint of approval in his eyes suddenly, and said, "You have learned the way of ignorance, yes, yes. With this way, you will be the third in the world. You have enough strength and enough anger, now your state of mind is at an unprecedented peak. Crush your Taoist heart and destroy your self-confidence, then, whether you accept it or not, the Tao of silence will be your destination." He smiled, with a kind of unparalleled arrogance and disdain in his smile, and said, "Take action, I'll give you 1,000 moves. Give you 1,000 tricks." Xuanhuan gritted his teeth and roared, saying, "I'll kill you." His white hair suddenly fluttered, and every strand of hair seemed to carry an eternal avenue. All kinds of supreme avenues merged into one, like a turbulent whirlpool, like a regular storm, sweeping across the entire embankment. Superior. Thousands of roars. For countless years, Xuanhuan has practiced hard in all kinds of ways, and his cultivation level has been comparable to that of the great Tao god of the past, or even further than the great Tao god, because he has endless fighting spirit and the anger of revenge. At this moment, the avenue roars, the Tai Chi Dao map has no beginning and no end, the supreme realm without birth and death, the bright light of destruction, the shocking surging murderous intention. Melt into one. As if all the supreme beings in the world were taking action, Xuanhuan worked hard throughout his life, shaking the stars of the years, and even the surrounding black sea of annihilation caused the waves to roll and the waves to hit the shore. Madness, destruction, explosions, the surging power was like a wave that swallowed up the heavens, rushing toward the quiet one like a tsunami. There were tears, hatred, surging rage in Xuanhuan's eyes. He couldn't forget that he ran away to escape, but in the end he couldn't find his anchor. He could not forget the smile of the little monkey in front of the water curtain cave in Huaguo Mountain. At this moment, Xuanhuan ignited his life. He used the fire of life to bloom the rose of the avenue. It was the white mist and black mist that resonated together, triggering power. It was the strongest thing he had cultivated in silence for eternity. Killing move. The white mist is used as firewood, and the darkness is used as fire, igniting the moment. The dark rose is like a world-destroying magic flower, floating towards the lonely one in the endless storm. This was the only way he could kill the silent one after he thought about it for countless years. The dark fire and dark rose in his body originated from the silent one. And it has the origin of white mist from a small mountain village. He has not yet given birth to the original law, but he will use his own life to trigger the destructive power of the white mist and black mist to destroy the power of the silent person's original law. Endless supreme killing powers swarmed in. The paved road rules have arrived. Jizhe looked at all this and smiled slightly. He just waved his sleeves. It was like the clouds on the horizon instantly dissipated, as if the shadows had been swept away, and the countless forces erupted from 10,000 ways could not hurt him at all. Under this law, the Supreme is like an ant. He walked out of the storm, with all the killing blows coming his way. As soon as he thought about it, all the destructive power disappeared. He raised his hand, and the black rose that Xuanhuan used as fire, blessed with white mist and black mist, fell into his hand. That rose, a wisp of energy, can destroy the heavens, and can cause the current universe to fall into annihilation thousands of times. However, when it fell into his hands at this moment, it was quiet and silent, motionless. Puff. Xuanhuan looked at Jizhe, his eyes were scarlet, full of helplessness and grief, and a deep despair and sadness filled his heart. No. Even though I tried my best, drained all my blood and burned my life, I still couldn't touch even a single corner of Jizhe's clothes. The endless anger in his heart suddenly seemed to have lost its burning direction. Little monkey, I tried my best. I'll stay with you. He closed his eyes, A tear slipped from the corner of his eye, and then he fell on his back on the embankment. Xuanhuan, who ran away all his life, finally realized the supreme, but when he was supreme, he was almost lost and could not find his anchor. When he finally found his anchor, he saw with his own eyes that Lu Kaling, who was smiling like a flower, was killed by the Quiet One with one finger. He no longer ran away, and withered for countless years, practicing all the ways in the world, and embarked on the most heroic conquest in his life towards the Black Sea of Annihilation and the dam that no one dared to set foot on. He arrived at the embankment and took action towards Jizha, who was the best in the world. And then died. As for Jizha, looking at Xuanhuan who fell on the embankment, a sad smile appeared in his eyes. Much better than I was back then. He opened his mouth and suddenly walked towards the dead Xuanhuan, and then suddenly placed the black rose on Xuanhuan's chest. His figure suddenly became very light, and mysterious power flowed from his body into the dark rose. You are the next silent one. However, you will no longer be lonely or despairing. You will be full of hope, and there will be someone behind you who will protect you for the rest of your life. He spoke softly, his own power of law had completely drained away. His cultivation is at a loss. Thank you very much. But he said thank you to Xuanhuan. Then he turned around, no longer caring about Xuanhuan, but walked step by step towards the end of the embankment. At the end of the embankment, there is a coffin. The coffin seemed to be stored in the wilderness of time, and no one asked about it for thousands of years. The crystal coffin is filled with cold air, transparent and pure. In the coffin, a woman lay quietly. The woman had a beautiful face and a calm expression. There seemed to be a smile at the corner of her mouth. Her red lips were still the same, and her skin was like frost and snow. She was wearing a bright red dress. That's the wedding dress. Lanur, I'm here. Jizha's steps have staggered a bit, his hair has become pale, his face has become old, he has lost all his cultivation, and his life has come to an end. He remembered countless years ago, when he was alone in the darkest realm because of the death of his old friend, and was tortured by the years until he lost himself. It's her who's coming. She spilled her blood and sacrificed her life. It restored his sanity and allowed him to find his anchor again. She said that her biggest regret in life was not being able to be his wife. On the day she died, her wedding dress was bright and her smile was like a flower. The lonely man smiled and smiled, tears rolling down his old eyes. He struggled to carry the coffin, his old body, and his beloved on his back to the grave that had been dug long ago. After waiting for countless years, he was finally freed from the control of this law. Being able to be buried with his wife in a closed coffin. He buried himself and his wife at the end of the years that no one knew about. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1249. A long time passed. The waves of the Black Sea of Annihilation beat against the dam. The dead body lying on the embankment suddenly trembled with its fingers. Xuanhuan opened his eyes with difficulty and sat up, with a look of confusion in his eyes. Is this the world after death? He whispered. After completely disappearing, why am I still conscious? Where is the little monkey? Is she also in this afterlife? But, at this time, an old voice came, saying, Don't be stupid, you're not dead. It's the voice of the dancing master. Xuanhuan raised his eyes and saw the dancing master sitting on a chair, looking towards the back of the embankment, as if looking at the scenery, with his legs crossed. The water emperor obediently half knelt in front of him, pinching his feet. Dizzy rubbed his shoulders respectfully. He enjoyed it very much and was very comfortable. What, I'm not dead. Xuanhuan stood up inexplicably. When he thought of it, he was stunned. Because, he discovered that he was indeed not dead. Moreover, in his body, there is an extra kind of power in Dao Jingdi. That is, the power of this law. At this moment, he had a feeling that with just one thought, he could detect everything in the world, reach every place in the world, and destroy everything he wanted to destroy. I proved this law. Ao Wushuan was surprised, then extremely pleasantly surprised, and said, I have become this hair skur, where is the silent one? I want to kill him. But the great dance master said, you don't need to kill him, he is already dead. He gave you all his laws and cultivation. Congratulations, Ao Baobao has become the best in the world and the biggest winner in history. The master of dancing said, but there was a hint of emotion in his words. Ao Wushuan was even more confused. The silent one is dead? Give all your cultivation to yourself. No. This is impossible. He didn't want to believe it, so he closed his eyes. At this moment, he mobilized the power to perceive everything, and he immediately perceived the scene after his death. The silent one injects his own laws and cultivation into the dark rose. Then he gave it to Ao Wushuan. Ao Wushuan was completely stunned. No. Why is that? There were countless questions in his mind. I thought you were Xiao Li's secret chess piece, but I didn't expect that you turned out to be Jizhe's chess piece. Xiao Li just made a casual move of yours to help Jizhe fulfill his wish. Master Tiao opened his mouth and said, the heart of a lonely person is not completely dead, but it is controlled by this law. It can only be indifferent, ruthless, and cruel forever. Once it deviates from this law, it will suffer the death penalty, and those human emotions will be destroyed again and again. He was tired, so he wanted to find a replacement, a scapegoat. The master jumper seemed to have figured everything out and said, you were originally his chosen scapegoat, the lonely one, you are the one who has the best chance of becoming the lonely one. But he didn't want you to be as miserable as he was, so he gave you another way. Do you think that the little monkey you met when you wiped out Shinto space and time was really an accident? Don't you think about it, your unparalleled solitary way wiped out the entire Shinto civilization. Why could a little monkey do it? If I survive, I can still get close to you. Following the words of Master Tiao, Ao Wushuan recalled a scene. That was in the previous life, he was ordered to wipe out the Shinto civilization. But at the end, I felt sad. He sat on the steps of the years, trembling and mourning, when a little monkey fled and pulled him to escape. So he ran away. Looking back now, could it be that that little monkey, the former mental ape, was arranged by Jizhe? Impossible. Ao Wushuan was unwilling to accept. The lonely one is obviously ruthless, obviously indifferent to the extreme. But the one who danced the great god spoke again and said, he wants you to become the silent one so that he can be liberated, but he is not willing to let you become as cold as him. So, he gave you away. The lonely person is not lonely, and the lonely person is not lonely. He allows you to find your own anchor and find the meaning of where you are. Ao Wushuan said. No. He killed the little monkey, he destroyed everything about me. Master Tiao glanced sideways at him and said, why don't you use your ability to detect everything to see if the little monkey is really dead? You did see him kill the little monkey, but you didn't know that it was just a shadow that blinded you. Ao Wushuan was stunned. Because when he changes his basic principles, already know everything. The little monkey is really not dead. Huaguo Mountain, Water Curtain Cave. He murmured and spoke. The little monkey is still in the Water Curtain Cave. Not dead. You are much more lucky, someone will pave the way for you, someone will give you choices. The master dance seemed to be looking at the end of the years, and sighed deeply. But the lonely man fell on the embankment, with no one in front of him. He had to carry everything by himself. He had no choice. What a poor man. He is a qualified master. He has led you to the fruit of the path of silence, but he has protected you as an anchor, preventing your heart from truly entering silence. With a teacher like this, what else can I ask for? He is worthy of you. Master Tiao's words were slow and calm. But Xuanhuan's body started to tremble slightly. At this moment, he understood everything. The fact that he met the heart monkey in his previous life was a trap set by Zhizhe. The purpose of Silent One is to make him feel confused and to let him pursue his life and find his anchor in the chaos of his life. In this way, only those who are alone will not be alone. A lonely person is not alone. Only after entering the path of loneliness can he keep his heart that is not lonely. Otherwise, even if he obtains the fruits of the path of loneliness, he will be left with eternal loneliness, pain, loneliness, and indifference. Now, he has become the Silent One. The lonely one who has not lost his love. The Silent One protected him well, gave him the path of silence, and gave him happiness. And the Silent One dies. Even until his death, Zhizhen never told Xuanhuan the truth, allowing Xuanhuan and his former disciple to harbor hatred and murderous intentions towards him. He just did everything silently and then passed away. Master! Master! At this moment, Xuanhuan suddenly felt agitated. With tears in his eyes, he looked towards the end of the years, the untouchable lonely grave. His heart was filled with endless regret and guilt, and he walked step by step towards the end of the years. He is tired. He has endured it for eternity and has finally found eternal peace. Don't disturb him anymore. Master Tiao spoke and stopped Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan stopped, looking at the lonely grave at the end of the years. The master of dance poured a glass of wine and drank it, but the wine felt bitter in his mouth, as bitter as a song. Eternal life and death are boundless, without thinking or forgetting, thousands of miles away in a lonely grave, nowhere to say desolate, ha ha, the world only knows that he is the best in the world, only knows that he is silent and cold, who knows, in this vast sea of dams, but he is a poor man who cannot help himself. He poured another glass of wine, sprinkled it to the sky, and said, "Respect the infatuated and pitiful people in the world. Good night. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1250. Above the embankment. After Li Fan had gone to the embankment, he could no longer be seen. No one knows what he will face on the road ahead. On the embankment, the lonely man who has been waiting here for countless years has passed away, and his bones are buried with his beloved for many years. The god of dance drank wine and enjoyed the service of the Thunder Emperor and the Water Emperor, sighing with emotion. Master! Xuanhuan murmured, his mood calmed down a lot, but the deep guilt and self-blame still lingered. The Silent One has done so much for him. But when he understood all this, it was when the Silent One passed away. Behind the dike. He clenched his fists, gritted his teeth, and said, "I will kill it." All the suffering of sentient beings and the sins suffered by peaceful beings, all originate from behind the dam. What? You want to die? Are you going to make the little monkey a widow? But the one who danced the great god opened his mouth and said, "Although your current cultivation level is slightly stronger than that of Zhizhe, after crossing the dam, you are just a little moth. In this life, Xuanhuan, with the help of the small mountain village, and under the guidance of the great god Tiao, mastered the 10,000 ways, and once again basically became the Silent One. Moreover, he also held the 9th forbidden tower left by Li Fan in his hands. The strength has surpassed that of the Zhizhe in the past. Could it be, that there's nothing I can do?" Xuanhuan was a little annoyed. But the dancing master smiled and said, "Who says you can't do anything? Do what you do best." Xuanhuan was confused and said, What am I best at? Master Tiao nodded and said. Run. This dike has become a moat in this world, but before Xiao Li can completely quell the turmoil behind the dike, there will still be tides sweeping in there. It may not break the dam and sweep through the world. So, you have to run away with the whole world on your back, and run towards the future time and space. In this way, Xiao Li can fight with peace of mind and no worries. Hearing this, Xuanhuan was startled and ran. Escape with the whole world on your back. Well, Xiao Li cut off the past with one sword, and you have the ninth forbidden tower in your hands. You can completely bear the dike and the whole world. Run away, Ao Bao Bao, run until the end of the world, run until the years are exhausted, run to the last line, a dark place where all light disappears. As the master of dancing said, he couldn't help but stand up. He seemed to be looking down the river of time and looking forward to the future time and space. He spoke passionately and impassionedly. Run out a prosperous era and a bright future. Run, run. Drive. Xuanhuan was originally excited by what he said, and his blood was surging. But when he suddenly heard the word drive, he suddenly felt strange. I'm a great dancer, I'm not a horse. He was angry. Master Tiao smiled and said. Anyway, no matter what, you run away. Xiao Li has just passed by and there is no movement over there, but it is estimated that it won't be long before there is a world-shattering battle, and the waves will turn upside down. If you don't run, it will be too late. Xuanhuan also hesitated. He didn't expect that he would have to run away despite being the best in the world. There seems to be no difference between this and when I was not number one in the world. This day. However, he soon gritted his teeth and said, okay, Lao Ao, let's run away now. He immediately released his cultivation, and his own laws resonated with the dam. At this moment, the entire world protected by the dam was shaken by him. The whole world began to drift in the invisible river of time. The waves of the years are turbulent, and the waves of the world are rolling. On the embankment, the sword inserted into the embankment is trembling gently. The ninth forbidden tower fell into Aowu's hands, suppressing the chaos in time and space. Escape all over the world. This kind of escape shocked the heavens and changed the pattern of all generations. The people and events of this life traveled through time and space and headed towards the future. This is unique in the ancient history. This kind of running is silent. Although there are countless creatures in the world, it is as if they are in a deep sleep. In their dreams, in their lives, it is difficult to notice that the era and world they live in are running away. On the embankment, Xuanhuan, Tiao Dashan, Water Emperor and Thunder Emperor were destined to be the only four witnesses. Master Dancer, do you know the end point of our escape? As he struggled to cross the long river of time, Xuanhuan saw that the road ahead was dark and void, and it seemed that there was only eternal silence. He couldn't help asking in alarm. Is there really a future? At the core of this long river of time, is there really a so-called peaceful place where life can have a pure land? But the dancing master smiled and said, it depends on fate. Whether there is a future or not, you and I can't decide. If Xiao Li can overcome the chaos and calm down the source of the universe, then there will naturally be a future. Through the evil darkness in front of us, we will finally see a ray of light. If he fails to fall, our escape is destined to be a futile struggle. Without a future, this will be a dead end. He revealed the truth behind the run. Time is like a long river, and something quietly digs up the roots of the past and present world. There is a great and unknown strangeness in the deep source of the past of the universe. Li Fan going upstream alone will also affect the cause and effect of the entire river of time. If he wins, the fire will continue forever and life will have a future. If he fails, then the past will be destroyed, the present world will not survive, and even the future will be quietly annihilated. They were running away, escaping the temporary turmoil, but the final outcome, still depended on the outcome of Li Fan's battle. I understand, but even if it is a futile struggle, you have to struggle. Xuanhuan opened his mouth, he led the dam, guarded this world, and fought for the passage in the long river of time. They saw that in the invisible river of time, the entire world was moving away towards the future, leaving only an unspeakable emptiness. As they run, Li Fan will become farther and farther away from them. They will run towards tomorrow and the future. And Li Fan will stay alone in the past, in the ruins that no one cares about, in the unpredictable battlefield, fighting the chaos alone. The journey to this world has begun. I hope that person can put an end to the chaos. The Thunder Emperor was horrified and witnessed the biggest secret in the world. He deeply felt that he was as weak as an ant. That one can definitely do it. The Water Emperor was also nervous. No one could participate in that battle. The fate of the people hung on the outcome of Li Fan's battle. The current world is escaping, and the current world is quickly far away from the original coordinates of time. They have traveled a distance of thousands of years. And in the present world, a great turmoil has also begun. Countless dark creatures in the Black Sea of Annihilation finally walked out of the Black Sea, passed through the darkest realm, and appeared in the Dark Dome. A shocking battle broke out immediately. Li Fan's disciples, reincarnation, small mountain villages, etc., have all suffered an unprecedented impact. This is a supreme war, and even the Hairsker participates. It is earth-shattering and penetrates the entire universe. Once the war is ignited, it will be difficult to stop. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1251. The flames of war ignited and swept across the heavens. The Supreme in the Dark Dome had been destroyed by the Silent One alone. Nanfan, Wu Dade, Long Xuanhuan, and others were already preparing to transform the entire Dark Dome into a world of white mist. However, at this moment, from the Dark Realm, other supreme dark creatures came out. No. How can there be supreme darkness in the Dome of Darkness? In the Black Sea of Annihilation, there are countless supreme corpses, but aren't all those corpses gone? How can they be reborn? Their bodies have the aura of the law of darkness. The law of darkness makes them come alive. Many of Li Fan's disciples were shocked. Even the big black dog's eyes were full of surprise and uncertainty when he saw this scene. Wow, something is wrong. Those supremes have already died, and there is no chance of rebirth. Did something terrible happen on the other side of the embankment? The dog's eyes were suddenly filled with worry, and he said, "Kill over there, the master is on the other side of the embankment, something may have happened." It shouted immediately. Originally, Li Fan had already boarded the dike, and all the power of the dike should have been suppressed by Li Fan. But now, those dead supremes have turned into dark creatures and reappeared. This means that the side of the dam may have lost control. It was also anxious. If something really went wrong in the overall situation, it would be terrible. Kill. Duguyuking slashed at those supreme beings who walked out of the dark realm with one sword, and the infinite sword intent was earth-shattering. It just so happens that these supreme beings in the dark sky are not exhausted at all. I hope those who come out of this Black Sea of Annihilation are stronger. Long Xuanhuan is full of fighting spirit. Go over and find Master. Lin Zhujian is harnessing the supreme energy. A group of disciples were all moving at this moment. The war breaks out immediately. However, as soon as they came into contact with them, Long Xuanhuan and others discovered that these supreme darkness coming out of the darkest dark realm were far stronger than those in the Dark Dome. The weakest ones are actually close to this law. Don't be careless. These supreme darkness have been soaked in the Black Sea of Annihilation for countless years and are infected by this law. They are very extraordinary. The South Wind is warning. Since ancient times, those who have been able to realize the supreme truth have been the most amazing people, and among the supreme, those who dare to charge towards the dam are the supreme among the supreme, the true heroes of the ages. These characters were truly invincible during their lifetime. Their talents and fortunes were probably not much worse than those of Nanfeng and others. They were all geniuses. The gap between the geniuses is not that big. The first batch of Supremes who came out of the Dark Supreme were only a few dozen people. Each of them was one against many, and they immediately fell into a hard fight. Even Lu Rang, who had just realized the Supreme Dao and turned green all over the dark sky, came out. The battle raged for days, and the entire Dark Dome was shattered. Zhang Li's boundless chess formation tried to suppress the battlefield, but at this moment it was riddled with holes. Even the killing formation was unable to completely kill the enemy. One sword suppresses the whole world. Dugu Yuking was roaring, and his sword was so sharp that even the supreme being who came out of the darkest realm did not dare to confront him easily. However, those supreme methods were also very terrifying, and there were many killings and calamities, and he severely damaged one of them. A supreme leader, but he himself was beaten until he vomited blood. I can't do it. Long Zixuan's fighting spirit was fierce, and he became more and more courageous as he fought. His helpless methods disabled the magical powers of several supreme beings. In an instant, he broke the necks of 2 supreme beings, but soon, one of them also practiced martial arts. The most powerful person has appeared, and it is actually impossible. Since ancient times, there has been no shortage of talented people. The road they are traveling today has also been reached by geniuses in the years that no one knows. 2 masters of the lawless ways, engaged in hand-to-hand combat and a life-or-death duel. You are not enough. The most arrogant person is Lin Zhuchen. He mobilized the power of creation. At this moment, the power of the entire dark sky, the forbidden 9 continents, and the secret world of reincarnation were added to him. He even borrowed the power of the darkest realm. The power was so overwhelming that the supreme beings approaching him were almost bleeding. However, soon, a dozen more supremes appeared in the dark domain, all rushing towards him. I wipe, even if it's not enough, it's too much, right? Lin Zhuchen's expression suddenly changed. Suddenly, he was facing more than 20 supreme beings, and the pressure increased dramatically. Junior brothers, support each other, don't fight alone. The south wind is suppressing the battle. She uses the heavens as her harp, and cause and effect as her strings. She even uses the enemy's supreme body as her harp, and uses the enemy's supreme avenue as its strings. The stringless path is mysterious and unpredictable, and she directly suppresses him. 2 statues of darkness approaching each other. She knows that she is facing a real enemy at this moment, and she has no idea how many more there are in the darkest realm, so she must be cautious. It's not enough to cover the darkness with green, I want to cover the dam with green. Lu Rang's eyes were red from the killing, and he swore a big oath to fight with all his strength. Come on, come to Fatty. On the other side, Wu Dade stood in front of Subakian. He was used to protecting Subakian. He used his flawless body to withstand massive attacks, but his expression remained unchanged. At the same time, Subakian was swimming quickly. She used the method of no life and no death to quickly save her classmates who were in danger. Wow, something's not right. When the big black dog saw this scene, it felt more and more problematic. It thought about it with its dog eyes and said, "It's hard to say, I'm going to the dam. The great emperor is here, who can stop me?" It was very unruly, holding its head high, and headed towards the dark territory. Wherever it went, those powerful dark beings were like fallen leaves. They were blown away by it, and the power of the dog was clearly revealed. Who in the world can stop me? After my master leaves, I will be number 1 in the world. It screamed and waved its big claws, as if it was going to split the entire boundless darkest realm. This scene is extremely shocking. The darkest dark realm is regarded as a big tomb. Even the supreme in the dark vault dare not approach it, but now it is about to be torn open by a dog. But, right now, the big black dog's earth-shattering and unparalleled trick suddenly disappeared, and an old man suddenly walked out of the darkest realm. The old man was dressed in green clothes, riding a green bull backwards. Wherever he passed, purple air stretched across 30,000 miles. Do nothing. The big black dog was immediately shocked and said, "When did you develop this law? Oh, this is so far off the mark." A flash of fear suddenly flashed in the dog's eyes. Before the dam, the two strongest people in all eternity, one was the inaction person and the other was the selfless person, both had a perfect state of mind. It can be said that if they did not die, they would be even half a point stronger than the world's third best jumper. Such people have obtained this law. It will be very strong. No. It's not just you. At this time, the big black dog noticed something again. Two rays of light suddenly shot out from its eyes, and it saw that the void of the surrounding world was filled with a bald figure. Wow, as a selfless person, how on earth do you have this law? The big black dog was shocked. Selfless, everything is not me, everything is me. In a sense, it exists side by side with the inaction. Two of the most terrifying creatures with perfect moods have obtained this law. Wow, do you really think that after cultivating this law, you can be cruel in front of this emperor? However, the big black dog quickly roared in a deep voice. This emperor has conquered the dams 9 times. During these turbulent years, who can be my enemy? Who do you think you are? Haha, I am here, so what if I give you 300 moves? You all can do it together. It looks around proudly, its momentum is invincible, and it looks like it is dominating the world. Damn dog, that's awesome. Even Wu Dade, who was fighting in the distance, couldn't help but speak. And the old man who was riding the green bull upside down suddenly landed next to the big black dog. The old man seemed to be stroking the head of the big black dog. In an instant, the big black dog split open. Hey, is this the end of you? Xuanhuan was surprised. However, as soon as he finished speaking, suddenly, the group of them disappeared from the place and entered the top secret void passage in an instant. And where the big black dog was, there was only one dog hair left. What it left behind, was an incarnation made of dog hair. And his main body has already escaped into the secret room that even the Supreme Being cannot detect, and built the original law channel. Run quickly, go back to the village. Oh, a good dog doesn't suffer the consequences of the moment. The big black dog barked and said. You two wait, I will find a helper to kill you. It takes Wu Dade, Nanfan, Xuanhuan, and others and is about to escape. No hesitation. Everyone. Good night. Some things were delayed and the update was late. Good night.